I'm recording. Hmm.
Darshana, I'm so delighted to be here with you and delighted that we can be here together, even though we're so far apart geographically right now.
Hmm.
You're one of our headliners, and I'm so thrilled that you're coming to the festival. Would you like to share something you're excited about the festival?
Well, I guess that we're all going to be there. I mean, I'm tribal. I have the channel of transformation, the 3254, and my moon's in the 54, so it's my focus, and and the focus being, helping my tribe rise up, and so yay, we get to go and be together and rise up, and or just tune into the the frequency of human design.
Yeah.
We live in our everyday life, and we're in the homogenized world, and we forget, or if we try and talk our language, which is human design, I mean, ideally we can also speak ordinary language that has the undertone.
Less better than others.
Yeah, but I noticed that, like, because I get to teach online, or talk like to you or something, that's like I can talk like we were just before we started the recording, talking about having the 952 and me having the 52, and then that we can talk about what that means, and it's like you can tune to that frequency.
Yeah.
You can go, all right, yeah, okay, I'm hearing you, in a way like people involved in different. When I was in theater, we could talk theater, and if you talked about, this director or that writer or something, or that theater that you worked at, or this, we all had a tribal sense of understanding, a commonality.
Yeah.
This is what I see the festival creating the possibility for, where we can just kind of bloom in our experience and sharing of how we see through the window of human design.
I love that so much. My heart was just fluttering and delighted with your
Yeah.
work. It came to my mind. I see everything through that window, through that lens of human design, and it's like I have a language inside of myself, and I have to go through a translation program before I speak to people who aren't in human design. So this, in a way, would be more like not having to translate my thoughts, but just be
Yeah.
able to share and empower and see people, and, as you say, support. And I feel that as we started talking just before this, I could feel that supportiveness in your nature. And of course, I'm tribal too, so I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. We like our tribes, even if it's tribes of freaks and individuals.
Oh yeah, whatever
Whatever they are.
yeah, it's a relief, isn't it, to find those fractals that you can just connect in with without having to figure it all out. And
Yeah.
and of course, one of the main tenets of human design is that we're realizing we're actually in a body, and the body has its wisdom and it knows where it's going, and then getting the mind on board, of course, is one of the processes that we all go through. And the deconditioning has human design, what has it given you in relationship to your mind? Do you love your mind? Do you hate your mind? Do you appreciate your mind? Or none of those things are even applicable?
Yeah, it's an interesting area. My design is, I have two centers defined. I have the spleen and the root with two channels connecting it, and one of them being a logical channel. And I'm on the cross of service, which is a logical cross.
Mm-hmm.
So we could say there's a lot of potential for mind there, because the gate 17 is present, and that it's logical, so there's no juicy solar plex in there. But I think because of my openness, I've been overwhelmed by the external, and the thinking of others, the emotions of others, the rules of others, it's like everything pushed on me.
Yeah.
And because I didn't, it's a very, I was going to say fragile thing, the splenic authority, but in reality, it's not, because every authority has its fullness, that is providing the needed support or guidance for the individual who is having that authority. But that intuitive awareness in the now, and I grew up in a home that was unfortunately rather abusive and dysfunctional. And so I didn't ever really have the ability to do anything other than use my spleen for survival, just for in the moment. Is there a shift in the energy of that person? How do I stay alive?
Yeah.
And so then I left home really early, and at 18 or something like that, and which in America is kind of early. And began exploring the world of mind. I went to university for 10 years. I thought, I want to spend the rest of my life at university. I just want to learn. And there was a certain safety in the learning, because the unpredictability of humans was not there, except maybe in teachers or colleagues and stuff. So coming to human design, so I worked through a whole series, my life. I mean, when you read my bio, you can see it's like all the things I've done. Being a third line, I tried to find something that would provide a sense of meaning, and human design did that. So in terms of the mind, and did that like relieve my mind? In a sense, it did, because it gave me the freedom to feel, let's say, safe through my intuitive awareness, through the sense of I don't need to figure it out. I'm just here, and if I'm sensing that somebody's unhealthy for me or in themselves, and it's not correct for me, this is my mantra. I learned this early in my human design time. I've been in this since 2005, deep into it. My mantra as a projector, the splenic authority, was, I would say to myself over and over again, is it safe? Is it healthy? And do they see me? Do they see me? Do they recognize me? And then I would know if there were invitations or things coming to me and they were seeing me. Then I could, from that space, say yes or no, or engage or not engage, without fearing that not engaging would have repercussions, or engaging would.
Right.
Yeah. And so I love my mind. I have a rather good one. Fortunately for me, I really enjoy it. It's very quick and intense and focused, and yet it also is a long answer. It also, because I'm splenic and I'm just the spleen and the root, just. There's this capacity for existential awareness that, to me, is the source of the root. Of the spleen. It's the source of it for me. The ability to be in attunement to the totality, to be in attunement to all the vibrations that are there, which is what I sense my instinct or my intuition is. Is it safe? Is it healthy? I'm beyond the capacity to determine through the mind. My sensing immediately knows if the vibration or the weave of that person or that experience is flawed or out of balance. And that goes from the most you me kind of thing to being here in the Maya.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I can go way, way off into existential spaces. And my challenge has always been like, how do I stay with people and emotions and all that stuff? Yeah.
I love that mantra, and it sounds like that what you did both almost intuitively and instinctually and through learning design was give your mind the thing to do that could help you. The mind wants to help, wants to be a helpful thing. It just goes off track and
Well, it's such a delight. The mind's wonderful. The only problem is when we use it to make decisions about our life. Other
right.
than that, let it bloom and flow, but don't use it to try and figure out what you should do.
Exactly.
Then we go
Exactly.
back to our form consciousness.
And
Yeah.
so you came up with that mantra, those questions, to give your mind the thing to do that it could help you in those moments when where otherwise it would be trying to figure something out or
Yeah.
know this or know that to make a decision. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's a very practical tool. My third line nature and 35, my fifth line nature. That's practical. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I mean, it really did help.
Yeah. Um, I get so you've been in design a long time, and
Relatively speaking, yeah. Not as
not
long as
as long
some,
as the very beginning people, but longer than I think a lot of us. You've got 4 years on me anyway.
but
Um, have you felt isolated? Was that a theme for you, or did you always have design people around you and kind of a
no, not at all.
yeah?
No, I'm in Denmark. There aren't that many, and
Yeah.
it's in, the language is not English, and
Right,
but
right.
being in Europe, it allowed me. I went to the Ibiza events when Ra was still here, and that was really wonderful. I went to England to Richard Beaumont put on some stuff, and
Mhm.
um, Genoa was in. These are old timers, right?
Yeah.
Um, was in Czech Republic. I would go down there. So being in Europe has really helped because there have been live events,
And
and
there's
it's
our
been,
puffer.
yeah. Alok was up in Oslo, so I went up and saw him, and um, yeah. But isolated. I think if you, I remember after Ra died, um, my father had just died in January, the end or mid-January, and then Ra left in March, wasn't it? And I I walked, I heard it, I thought it was unreal. We were going out to dinner and I saw it said that. I just went into my husband and said, I don't want to live anymore. It was like my father gone and Ra gone. It was like the two people who were really giving me a sense of direction and and actually community, a sense of tribe. And then after some time, I wrote to Genoa and I said at Human Design America and said, can I just hang out with you guys? Can I just be part of your tribe? Because I felt so alone. And Genoa and Lasita just welcomed me in, and that was such a gift. And I'm deeply grateful to them and to the whole community that I've been able to, then Linda and at IHDS and so on. So I think when we simply let it be what we are, when we let it be our true choice, our true self, our truth, then we don't have to feel lonely. We might be alone, but we don't have to feel lonely in it because we will find like energies.
I'm looking forward, as we were talking earlier about being in the festival and having that commonality of language and seeing everyone in aura and the possibility of the connections that will keep growing from there as well. That
Hmm. Yeah.
that we can maintain and nourish and allow to flourish from that seed.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
those of you who are watching, really, I mean, the times that I went to the Ibiza events, and I didn't know anybody. The first one I went to, I was
Yeah.
completely green. you know, I didn't make the first one once I started human design because I didn't have the money. But then the next one, I was like, okay, I'm doing this, and and met so many of the who now are the what we see of as the senior teachers or the long-term wise
Hmm.
ones in the knowledge, and because they were there with Ron those early days,
Yeah.
and having the experience in aura of each other, really is delicious. Let's just say that. It's just yummy to be able to, like, I look forward to meeting you in person and like giving you a hug and having a sense of your body, the touch of your body. My sense is touch, so I like to touch people. And I learn from that.
Touch right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's, yeah, if you're called to this, if it's correct for you, then being there is going to be a gift. And then those who come, it will be that, that they will feel called. And those who can't come because of whatever, we're going to keep doing this.
Right.
Isn't that cool? We're creating a tradition, and it's the gift of Christo and his partner and you and others who are putting their energy into it, that are kind of rebirthing the spirit of this international gathering that, like, we used to have in Avisa.
Yeah, it's marvelous.
So, very wonderful. Yeah.
I just feel compelled to tell this funny story. I went to one Avisa event, the 25th anniversary, so it was just after Ra had passed, and I hadn't been long into design, a few years, but not 7 yet. And I was sitting there and I have an open throat. And so I just thought, okay, I'm just going to sit here. I won't go up and start talking to people, which I'm very shy and awkward in social situations anyway. So I just was sitting there and watching everybody talking to each other, and nobody noticed me. And I started getting emotional, and then I started getting more emotional. I could just feel all this emotion building in me because I had been so excited, Yeah. And then this man walked by and he said, "Oh, you're Tiera. I recognize you from Facebook." And I stood up. He gave me a hug and I burst into tears. And so there was this wonderful man. I'll never forget him, Valentin. I'm so grateful for him. Here he is with now a crying generator in his arms. And he was so gracious with me. And he said, "Well, I do have to go to the bathroom." Was on his way. He was so precious. He was so lovely with me. And so, but then it got me up and I started walking around, and I walked out the door and Randy Richmond was coming in, and he took one look at me and he goes, "Well, you're emotional," and kept on walking. And then suddenly I was just milling about and meeting people, and everything was fine. But it was, I'm awkward sometimes in social events, and so if anyone out there is awkward, it all works out.
That was the same for me. The first one I went to, I knew nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very new to human design completely, and so I had taken courses with Ron, but all online, and with Linda and Gennaro back in the day, with the foundation courses, and I used my human design for being there. I thought, okay, Darshana, you are a projector. Wait to be recognized. Don't initiate. And so I simply walked around and watched how my old self would have been, making something happen, like connecting or reaching out, or just to fit the image of being there. And I used it as an experiment for what happens if I don't do anything but be present and let myself be recognized and invited and connected with from the other, rather than pushing myself in. It was really, so all that awkwardness, like you're talking about, I think I remember in your interview with Andrea, she said the same thing, that we all will have a certain sense of awkwardness if we don't have our tribe with us, our playmates. And the fun is that's like the opportunity. Then don't take anybody with you, and see what happens when you're just following the energetics of your design.
Right. Exactly.
Nobody's going to be assuming you're a certain way. You're not going to have your standard operating procedure. You're going to be coming from the experiment of just being yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so exciting. And even being awkward or whatever happens, we again have that language, to be able to communicate that. And I imagine everyone will have a certain level of openness to who other people are mechanically.
Well, because that's why you would go to a human design event. Nobody's going to go there saying, "Why are you being so?"
Right, right.
It's like,
Why are you
because
so
it's my design.
penetrating my aura? Stop it.
Yeah, yeah. I did an event. I did a training of human design on the Canary Islands for some people for about 7 days, I guess. And I made little placards for them. Little, I forget what they're called in English, but where you lanchettes, is that the word? Where you have it, like at a conference where your name is on there. But instead, I had their charts so that they could walk around and hold it up and show it to each other. And
do you happen to have the template for that? I want to do that.
Probably. I mean, it's several computers ago, but I probably have it somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Hi, who are you?
Yeah. And there's the whole like, oh, you're getting stuck into labels and stuff. But the understanding with human design is that it's not about labels. We're simply using language to identify energetic structures, which is what we use language for, right? This is a computer. What does a computer mean? Oh, it's this machine that has a screen and connects to electricity and, oh, okay. I mean, computer doesn't at all indicate what this wonderful thing that we're talking to right now is, but we need language.
We do. And some people I've talked to, well, that's so limiting. I'm an unlimited being, all the new age ideas of unlimited. But quite honestly, to me, human design is limitation that's liberation.
Well, that's gate 3 or gate 60, right? Gate 60 is limiting. The first step to transcendence is accepting of limitation.
Yeah, and I love the limitation of what I am, because now that's all I have to be. I don't have to be trying to be all the other things that I thought I had to be. So yeah, right. That's very good for me. And it's all about love, really. Like, I can just hear Ross saying that the biggest problem on the planet was everybody hating themselves, and that they're not even hating themselves, they're just hating their not self because they're not even who they are. And would you like to share anything about how human design has helped you love yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've gone through all these different processes in working with human design and going through my own ever evolving understanding of myself. And the standard, I would say, is that we all are experiencers of trauma. That even if it's just, as a 5-year-old and you go into kindergarten and you're feeling scared and maybe don't want to do I can remember being in kindergarten and we had to put these little towels or blankets, whatever they were, on the floor and take a nap. And I didn't want someone telling me to do that. I didn't want I didn't feel safe under that construct.
Yeah.
And so, but I had to. They were the controllers or the authorities, the external authority, and that in itself became like this little baby trauma moment where my truth had no space in the external world. And that, I think, the saying in the Asian philosophy, death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. One little cut and another little cut and another little cut and another, and we just build up a life of being wounded and not honored for our unique self, that then we put a barrier up to protect ourselves and to deflect the external, or put on a show to get them to like us, and I can say that I've done all that, through my journey, because of being so open. There was and not having like an energy source I have adrenalized awareness, but that awareness is all about survival. And so it sent me into survival mode all the time. And then human design gave me the opportunity to begin to watch it, or to I guess just make sense of it.
Yeah.
Because internally, the mind wants to make sense of things, but when I have no gates in my head center, and I have 3 gates in my ajna, but I don't really have a great sense of access to them. They're dormant, and so I don't have, we know the open ajna says it's seeking certainty, right? I had no sense of certainty out of my thoughts, and I lived in a world of thoughts, and I was put into advanced classes because I tested with a high educational capacity, and so it was all oriented towards the external. Yeah. And so human design has, and trauma work, all these different things are valuable, and we will know through our strategy and our authority which ones we will seek to help to work through the layers of conditioning that we built in order to deal with death by 1,000 cuts. And and that's what I feel the not self is. It's simply our capacity to protect us.
I've looked into so many modalities, from astrology and Enneagram and tarot cards and Myers-Briggs, and dabbled into quantum physics, just like, where's the answer? Where's the answer? Where's the answer? And it would all break down at a certain point. It would get to a point where it just didn't have enough practical application to shift something in me, until I found human design. And as you can imagine, you have the 52, I have that channel. I'm looking for the flaw. I'm focused in there to see where that lack of congruency is going to pop up, and I haven't found it. And that has certainly given me the ability to love myself. I even can love the things that other people don't like that much, which is really delightful. And the one thing that has really stood out for me is that in none of those other systems did I ever find anything that spoke to being a projector. There was nothing that had an awareness of what a projector is until I found human design. And my mom was a projector, and so I have an inherent just care and love for what that is in me. And I just want to say, projectors, come on in, come to the festival, and find that sense of community that may have been just so confusing, because how can you understand that you're not an energy being? Like, as you say, you have a motor, but it's not a sacral motor. And it's not a motor to your throat, and the openness and the what you take in is so profound that the awareness of that operating system, I think, is so incredibly valuable. And I'm thrilled. I'm really excited to meet you and Aura, and hit me up for energy anytime. I have plenty.
Yeah, but that was one of I think the second time I went to Ibiza, we had a projector gathering, because it wasn't my first time, so I wasn't so new, so I felt more comfortable, kind of, and it was so fun, Dawn Elwick and Teresa Yeager, I forget how to say her last name, and sorry, Teresa, if you see this.
I love her, but I don't either.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of others, and that we, got together, and we could it made so much sense. It just made so much sense. So I'm doing a projector workshop at the at the event. And actually, and I haven't written up the little overview of it yet to send over to Christo to put up, but I want everyone who's coming to my, I think it's 2 hours, to bring something red to put on and take off.
Ooh, nice.
Okay? Because I want to explore sacral energy, right? Because that's the thing for projectors. It's like we're walking around going, there it goes.
Yeah, love-hate relationship.
Yeah. Well, just,
Sacral.
oh, yeah. I don't know if I would call it love or
That's
hate.
not a good
It's
analogy.
just overwhelm or flow.
Yeah, nourishing or depleting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
coming together, and again, I don't know if we're doing it where everyone comes to the group. I should know these things. I'm splenic. I'll find out and deal with it when I'm there. And I'm not very good at making rules. It's sort of like, so if you don't bring red, don't bring red. But it'll be fun if you do.
Just a few of us can have a little extra red to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
someone else. I think it's funny because I haven't had red on in a long time, and I put it on this morning.
I know, and the wall behind you's red too.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm all white. Yeah, no energy.
I love that. I especially love that the festival has a strong focus on being in the body and exploring through the body, as
Yeah.
opposed to just only a mental, let's learn more, but really being in the body and what is that. So those kind of things are very exciting to me.
Yeah, and I have I have a really cool piece of music that we're going to dance to that will tune you into that. So
I like that. I like that you'll be there without any sacrals, and that movement will happen in a pure way without the exaggeration that the
well, we'll
sacral.
see. I don't know actually if it is if we're doing that where it's just projectors.
I think so. That's
Is
what I
that
understand. That there's
okay?
actually 4 different venues.
Yeah. Oh, at the
Within
same time.
Manchester, and I think they're at the same time.
Well,
I
that's
could be
cool.
wrong.
That's also
That's what my mind told me, but actually I don't know either now that I think about it.
yeah. But it's easier for projectors to hear themselves when they're not being manifested or generated.
Right,
So,
exactly. I like
or
that.
reflected.
Or reflected. So in closing, if Rob popped in for a second right now, is there anything you'd like to say to him? Is there any?
Yeah. Like I said before, when he first left, it was, I thought the source of something that finally makes sense to me is no longer here. And for some years, it really, the whole community kind of struggled to find their ground with it, because it was such a shocker as he did. And now I don't feel him gone. Right? It's like if he popped in, I talked to him. I mean, it was like, oh, I'd like to ask you this question. What if I think Andrea was saying this too? It's like, well, what about how did that? And because his mind was so amazing, it was just, but I can pick that up by listening to his recordings, and watching his videos. I can also tune into his frequency and really feel it. So, yeah, what would one say? Look forward to doing the dance again in form. Yeah. Whenever we can, wherever that shows up. He said that his crystal was going into the sun and wouldn't reincarnate again. So maybe not, but he's part of the totality. The frequency is there. It never, where he's walked will always be there. Yeah. And that's, so it's funny to think of things like, do I feel gratitude? I mean, yeah, on certain levels, but it's more like you did your part. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Now we're doing our part. Yeah. Just really honoring him. So that's, I guess I would say, is I really honor that you walked the walk and I got to share the path with you for a time. Yeah. Really, really honor that was possible. and now I get to do it with those who also have this fractal or this trajectory.
Yeah, and here we are. I'm thrilled that we're going to have the videos of Ra.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
these big, like, theaters where, you know, big screen Ra.
He's such a delightful man.
Yeah, the quality of his voice is just so powerful for me. It mutates me. It gives me the information beyond what the words are. It just goes right into my cells.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I used to say listening to him for me was like going into one of Europe's great cathedrals and hearing an organ play or something. It just took me to this vastness, like, and then out of the walls of the cathedral into space. It was just like this access to something so limitless.
Yeah.
It's knowledge. Yeah.
And
And yet here we are walking in little, what did Alan Watts call them? He called us, you know, flesh bags with feeding tubes. You know, but we're consciousness hanging out in these flesh bags, right? And so, and they're fun.
And what an amazing gift it is to have this awareness. And, you know, there's this aspect of me that is just edgy, and his dark sense of humor is one of the things that works especially well for me, because when everything is all sweet and light, it doesn't go as deep.
Yeah.
I'm a little too New York for that.
Yeah, or our individuality, perhaps.
Exactly. Yeah,
because he's so, you know, as I speak of him as he's present tense, because he still lives so strongly in the field.
So I'm delighted to have this time with you today, and so excited to meet you. And I really can sense the cosmic presence that you connect with and that you bring. And so I'm thrilled that you're doing some of that as well. And yeah, baby, here we go.
Yeah. So this will be really, really fun. I am just delighted.
Yeah. Thank you, Darshana.
Yeah.
Bye.